up, everybody? Oh, welcome to the Early Edge NFL Super Bowl pregame picks show. Will Brinson here, apparently by myself. Just kidding. I've got a great cast of friends who are joining, including Mackenzie Brooks in an Eagles uniform from Danny Cannell's house, which is not a phrase that I had on my 2025 bingo card. That's where they're having their Super Bowl party. RJ Whitehead, Danny Brasco. We will be joined later by, because I know you're in the chat, like, oh, where's Sia? Where's Sia? Sia will be here. Sia's coming. Sia's on the show. Sia will be on the show. Sia will be on the show. He'll actually host the second half of the show. And then I'll analyze or something like that. Jason La Confora, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, Dave Richard. Anybody else? Oh, Propstarz is going to be here. And we have producer Ben with some picks as well. Excited for the Super Bowl. Glad it's here. What's up? How we doing? You guys pumped? Kansas Eagles going to pull this off?
Yeah, it takes one Sunday, Brinson. It just takes one Sunday to take down Patrick Mahomes. And I almost flew home for the Super Bowl, but last time I did that, which was, 2 years ago, the deja vu, the PTSD, whatever you want to call it, of flying home, sit next to my dad and watch a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl and the way that ended. I figured it'd be better to stay here in pretty South Florida. So we're just watching at home.
Don't worry, South Florida. I know where Ken's lives. I went and greased up all the light poles, so we're going to be okay.
I will be team. There's a reason they put me on the first half of the show, so I can really just dial in and maybe start partying right after.
Well, breaking news that you're going to appreciate, Ken's. Brandon Graham active for the Super Bowl. He made the comeback. He's playing. Looks like Bryce Huff inactive for the Eagles. It's Bryce Huff, Tanner McKee, Eli Ricks, Lewis Seen, Darian Kennard, Trevor Keegan, and Aeneas Smith. And then for the Chiefs, we have Steven Nelson, Keith Taylor, Josh Uche, CJ Hansen, Wanya Morris, Ethan Driscoll, and Malik Herring. So Brandon Graham, obviously the headliner there and a big deal. The last time the Eagles won a Super Bowl, Brandon Graham famously stacked Tom Brady.
You know who I'm still upset about? That really just hurts. Just want to shout out our boy Kenny Gainwell. Tough to see him not here. However, that was probably the worst beat of my entire short career doing this. But when he had 8 rushing yards, then got concussed, and his line was 8.5, and then you just see Will Shipley go off for 90 yards in the second half, and I'm like, that was supposed to be Kenny. So
that's right. Shipley went ham. Yeah. And let's not forget Carson Wentz. Active for the Chiefs in the Carson Wentz revenge game spot against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's get to our picks. So here's the deal. Everybody, all 10 of us have picks against the spread on the side and total. We're going to talk about those. If you guys have player props, questions about props, any prop on the board, make sure to ask us in the chat. Give us odds. Tell us where it is too, so that way we can tell you to shop around or whatever it is. Of course, we are presented by BetMGM. I think I forgot to say that off the top because I was looking at the spreadsheet. We will also give out all our player props. Some people have 3, some people have 2, some people have 5. We have anytime touchdown scores we'll get to. Of course, first touchdown scorer, a plot twist that we added for the Super Bowl is last touchdown scorer, and each one of us has a group parlay pick that we're going to give out throughout the show. So if you're watching here and you want to start adding those group parlay pieces in, do that, because then we're going to have a 10-leg parlay that we all individually contribute to that's going to hit and make us all rich. Let's get to the game itself, though. RJ, has there been any significant movement? I know it's kind of trending towards the Eagles a little bit. I think we're just sitting at Chiefs minus 1.5, right? Kind of like we think the Eagles are better, but the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes line, right?
Yeah, 1.5 at some spots, 1 at some other spots. There was some speculation that would get down to pick them today. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Money line probably get around plus 100 on the Eagles at this point, and minus 120 or so on the Chiefs if you want to play the money line. And yes, that's kind of what it is. It got to plus 2 very, very beginning of last week. Right coming out of the conference championships, and that quickly got snapped up by a lot of people, myself included, on SportsLine. And now we're just in that 1 range.
All right, so we got plus 1.5, minus 115, even money for the Eagles, as RJ points out. Ken, do you following do we have a model situation here? Or is this just I'm wearing an Eagles jersey and I'm YOLOing it with the Eagles on the money line?
So, to be fair, the model does like the Eagles to win by a point, but that's not even what I'm going with here. I think I've come up with, I'm calling it America's play, where you can root for the Eagles because you don't want to root for the Chiefs, but you also don't have to root against Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs money line. And that's going just with the Eagles team total over 23.5, which I actually genuinely do think is a good play. We have them projected for 27 points, I believe it is, but they just keep humming. I mean, every single playoff game, they're putting up more points. So I think they're dropping a 55 burger like they did on the Commanders. No, but I do think the Chiefs did a phenomenal job of stopping Josh Allen in short yard situations. They knew how to scheme against him, but you didn't have our good friend Saquon Barkley to also worry about. So I just can't wrap my head around how they'd be able to contain both threats on the ground.
I mean, look, I'll be honest. I am on the over here, and I'm only giving this out now because I think you should go ahead and bet it because I think it's going to tick up to 49 pretty soon. You saw 48.5 minus 115. I know some sharp people who are on the over as well. I think a lot of sharp people are on the Eagles, and that's fine. The over to me is the one you want to bet now, though, because if it gets to 49, that's obviously a pretty key number when we start talking about 7 touchdowns. These two teams ended up in a shootout a couple of years ago. It was it wasn't even a slow start. It was a shootout from Jump Street, and they sort of tossed it all around. I think the Eagles defense probably maybe the better unit overall. Again, the Eagles are the better team. I have no problem with anybody saying that they're betting on the Eagles. They're taking the Eagles. They think the Eagles will win, and they're very confident in it. I'm just done betting against Patrick Mahomes in these spots, and that's the bottom line for me. Is like there's no. And I think that's sort of where you take the stance here. You're like, I either think the Eagles are the better team or I'm betting on Patrick Mahomes. It's a lot to me like the sort of maybe even the Falcons and Patriots Super Bowl or the Seahawks and the Patriots Super Bowl or the Eagles and the Chiefs Super Bowl a few years ago where you know which roster is better and you know which team, if they play just like simulated, is going to win more often, but the other team has Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And so I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, Danny, in my pocket and go with the Chiefs. What say you?
I cannot believe that we're sitting here and more of the handle is on the money line for the Philadelphia Eagles, betting against history than there is on the Kansas City Chiefs. The books have a scenario where the Chiefs win 3 times in a row, and they have a winning scenario in terms of their liability. That shocks me. And honestly, I think, look, the Eagles, you can make all the cases in the world for them. They, like you said, they may be the better roster on paper. But I think if you're betting the Eagles, you're suffering from amnesia. This is Patrick Mahomes, the Witch King. It's going to happen again. And I'll give you the case why. Number one, he's faced Fangio 8 times. He's 8-0 straight up against him, 6-2 against the spread, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. To me, Philadelphia, as vaunted as their offense is, they have only played 4 top 12 defenses in terms of DVOA the entire season. So it wasn't that hard of a schedule. You can only make the case that Saquon Barkley, like, as they say, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. He's going to do his thing. Kansas City was top 10 in yards per carry allowed, yards per game allowed to running backs, and they were top 3 in yards after contact. That's going to be huge here if they can get him down without those big explosives. They're the best tackling team in the NFL per PFF. So I'm just hoping that they can contain him at least. And again, Hurts has been really good against the blitz. So Spagnuolo sending that blitz, it's going to be a huge, game mastermind piece there. But he has struggled when protection doesn't hold up. When he faces a QB pressure, he's actually bottom 10 in the league against QB pressures. So against man, again, Hurts really good against man. Chiefs do play a good deal of man, but when they play that zone blitz, Hurts outside the top 20 in terms of EPA against zone. So really going to be a lot of just masterminding X's and O's from Spagnuolo. I'm really excited to see how they play it out, but I think the Chiefs have the pieces and the strategy to beat this vaunted Eagles team. It's a dynasty run. Also, I think if the Eagles are playing from behind, it's going to be really hard because in this last 3 seasons, when the Chiefs are leading after the first quarter, they're 23-0. That's incredible. So if you can make them play from behind, the Chiefs got your number. Mahomes is too clutch. Don't give him the ball last. He will win the game. There's no way I'm betting against the Chiefs.
I guess I'm betting on the Chiefs and the over. I think I want the Eagles to kind of have a lead like early because then I think the over has a better chance of hitting. RJ, I know that you like the Eagles here. You played that on SportsLine at +2. I believe you're not alone in terms of intelligent football minds that I know who are backing the Eagles. I guess we can count Ken's too. Do you have any other plays from this game that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think the Eagles have what it takes to win this game. I think the Chiefs have the history on their side, and they have what it takes to win this game too. So, you can argue either way. It's kind of like that 49ers game last year, very close spread, went to overtime, wouldn't have been surprised about anything. So, I think
it's a lot like the Chiefs and Bills last week or 2 weeks ago too, where it's like you could argue that Josh Allen is going to get it done, or that Patrick Mahomes is going to rip his heart out again. And like neither one was really wrong,
And RJ, for me, all the sharps, the 500K bets, the $1 million bets, the professional bettors, those were all coming in on the Niners last year. I joined that party. I thought it was the sharp side, and it just didn't matter. So for me personally, it just feels like fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again. I'm joining the dark side.
Nah, I'm willing for the third. I'm willing for the third.
Coin flip game, though. I mean, it went to overtime. So it's not like everybody was wrong. It was a tight game. So
it is crazy to me in terms of the handle that, just because of Chiefs fatigue and the haterdom and just the NFL culture just groaning collectively, that there's so much money on the Eagles. Of course, Philly, massive sports betting market.
America's team.
Right. So pretty much everyone's rooting for the downfall, right, of the dynasty versus the best team potentially in NFL history.
Well, we're tired of seeing them, in the win titles. It's time for someone else.
Ain't going anywhere.
I know it's get used to it, but even Tom Brady and the Patriots didn't win 3 in a row. And I think that's
the only ethical solace I can take is that I'm a Giants fan and I root against Philly and Boston and that area. So that's what I could take to my rooting for Chiefs, but I don't feel good about it, guys. I'm sorry.
Hey, random kind of hot take, and then we'll get into our player props. But this isn't I don't know if it's a hot take, but I think it's sort of an undersold factor that Steve Spagnuolo is the guy who kind of stopped the Patriots from having 8 Super Bowls, and also the guy who's basically allowed Patrick Mahomes to get to this many Super Bowls. If he wins, he's going to have 5 Super Bowls, and then they have another assistant who used to be on the Patriots who's going to have 6 if they win. They're going to have 150 rings on this roster. It's ridiculous.
So before we move on real quick, let me make my pick that I have here on the sheet, because I thought about this today and I really liked it. And it kind of fades something that you said a few minutes ago. I like the second half under 24.5 points. I'm not going to be able to find second half lines at this point for all books. But it was interesting to me is in the scenario where this isn't, a super tight game at halftime, one team is leading 7-6, whatever. I could see the Chiefs teeing off on Jalen Hurts. I think Danny said, that blitz is going to come if he has to throw, and it's going to limit scoring. If the Eagles have the lead, I could see them grinding out first downs. If they have the lead, it's because that run game's working, right? And so I can see them grinding out first downs with that offensive line, limit the Chiefs' possessions, then it's a low-scoring second half. So I think the only really way we get a tight, second half or a high-scoring second half is if it is tight. And then, we get that Mahomes magic that we're getting. They're able to do their full game plan, and the Eagles are able to do their full game plan. So I think that's an interesting look, is to get under 24.5. And even then, you might only get to 24. So that's why I like that play.
Yeah, and I would say too, if you are, we live in a different world now where you can be sitting on your buddy's couch, smashing 7-layer dip and firing in halftime bets. You don't have to, run down to the kiosk or call your bookie or anything like that. So I think if you are betting this game, to RJ's point, and you are looking for something to bet at halftime, that the nature of the game state, as in, is there a significant lead? Is there a double-digit lead for one team? And I think it'll be a close game. So obviously Vegas is too. But if somehow the Chiefs are up, because the Eagles were up double digits in 2 or 3 years ago, right? I think if a team is up double digits, you could potentially see, like RJ said, the other team just running it into the ground and milking the clock on those long possessions, because both teams can do that in different ways. Obviously, the game could get loose. We'll see. But yeah, the Gipper says, I like live betting first and third quarter unders. You kind of see it. Yeah, kids, what's up?
Eric Casilius just texted me. He said, here are my bets. Take what you want. So I said, I'll share them with our good friends on SportsLineYouTube.com. One of them is the second half under, as RJ just mentioned. This one I like a lot. This is only -114. Philadelphia's first touchdown to be a rushing touchdown. Love that as well. Team that scored last to win. I don't know what the price is on that. Quarterback to win the MVP is only -175, which I guess you're rooting against Saquon. No points in the first 6 minutes is -128. And he's got some love for my boy Cooper DeJean over 4.5 tackles. I like Quinyon Mitchell over his 3.5 tackles. 4.5 tackles plus assists, that was. But Quinyon Mitchell, sorry to just segue us. I think he's very live
You're
here
fine.
with Xavier Worthy who I predict to be a big part of this game, makes Quinyon Mitchell a big part of this game to me.
I did not have on my bingo card as well. Sorry, go ahead, RJ. Yeah.
That prop real quick. Last team that scores last win game is usually around -210.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Oh. Wow. I did not have on my bingo card. Kins reads text from Eric Casillas and uses Eagles defensive back tackle props to segue us into player props, but I freaking love it.
Sitting in Danny Cannell's office.
While sitting in Danny Cannell's office chair, I was like trying to see which balls he had back there. Like one's got to be
it's a wild year, Brinson.
Yeah, I know. Man. What is he? Is that the Houston Super Bowl? No, it's LI.
He had a few pictures of some random coaches that I was.
Is that this year's Super Bowl? Is he have an LAX Super Bowl already? I mean, Super Bowl ball? What is that one? Oh, that's the greatest Super Bowl of all time. LIV. That's the Seahawks and the Patriots, right? Is that right?
No, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, LIV was Houston. No, LI was Houston. Well, who cares? Anyway, let's move on to the props. L was San Francisco with the Panthers and the Broncos. And then LI was the 28-3 game. By the way, did you see Belichick's girlfriend today? What she wore to brunch? Unbelievable. I just said, leave the Falcons alone, lady. Hey, Danny, you and I are on a tight end prop that I love here. I'll let you take it away. You should rummage through Danny's desk drawers.
Yeah, let's see what we can dig up in here, guys.
It's like all of a sudden Ken's is like, I've got to go. This is weird. We're going to leave this house. Danny, tell us about why you are all over Dallas Goedert here.
Yeah, absolutely love Goedert in his matchup. It's my favorite prop on the Eagles side. Goedert led all tight ends in yards per route run this season, and he's going to have a great matchup against a Kansas City defense that was bottom 10 in covering opposing tight ends. They actually gave up the most yards per reception, so I like his yards the most. But honestly, I'm going to ladder up his receptions too. I think he gets a lot of volume. Hurts, the biggest knock on him recently has been that he holds onto the ball too long. And if Spagnuolo is sending that blitz, he's going to have to look for that safety valve target. So I think you're going to see them look to Goedert in the flat, kind of quick stick routes in the middle of the field target that the Eagles need to utilize to open up that offense. Goedert has been soaring over this number in the playoffs. He averages 64.4 yards per game throughout his playoff career and more than 7 targets. So I think he's going to get the volume. And I think he's going to be a key piece of this offense, especially like I mentioned, if the Eagles are playing from behind, more passing volume. So Goedert all day for me. I think he thrives in this matchup. Give me his receptions, give me his yards. Can't miss with Goedert, I think.
Yeah, I'm on Dallas Goedert over as well. I'll talk more about it when Sia takes over. I want to get y'all's picks. Kins, give me a prop bet that you don't happen to have any like Eagles running back related, like, I don't know, minus 180 props in your pocket, do you? Like,
Adjust the plays. Okay, well, for starters, my one leg that is pretty pricey is for the parlay. But this one I do still think is worth betting on just straight is Saquon to go over 1.5 receptions. He almost got there against the Commanders, finished with 1. But I do think, like, if you're going, you have to be creative in this game. And I do think they'll get him involved in that game, especially if Hurts starts to feel pressure. I think we'll see some short yard passes going to Barkley if we feel like that is the best way for him to be explosive. So I just think in a game like this is where you get creative with the backs. I mean, I like taking Worthy rushing yards and Kareem Hunt receiving yards, like just flipping characters in general. I think this is a time for that. So it's a great leg to a parlay. I do like his rushing and receiving numbers overall, but I do think this is a reception game for him.
Sure. And there's lots of game scripts where he can get there. RJ, player prop from you.
Yeah, on the Eagles side, I like Nolan Smith to get at least half a sack. I found that at minus 106 looking around books. You can play him to get a full sack. I think he has the advantage on some of these Chiefs tackles. We know Juwan Taylor can get jumpy on the right side and with those false starts. And I think he, with his speed, it was a 4.39 40 in the combine. He can get around him. Joe Thuney, not used to being on that left tackle spot too. Used to being in the interior. I think he has the speed to get around him too. So he has been a sack machine for the Eagles. He's had 6 sacks in the last 6 games. 5 out of those 6 games, he had a full sack. So he's really come on the second half of the season, and I think this is his time to shine. He's going to get at least half a sack and probably even a full sack in this game.
By the way, Will, I should mention one asterisk to the stat. I said Goddard led the league in yards per route run. I meant against man coverage, and the Chiefs did play a top 10 rate of man coverage. That's a wrinkle to that stat that I should mention. So another reason why the matchup is strong.
It's a good stat.
All right,
Danny.
Kenj, you got another. Did you already give out? Did you mention Kareem Hunt? Or were you just sort of like? Okay.
I teased it,
Well, but it's sort of like, it's sort of like you're flipping the script on like what people expect to happen, which is like Saquon running a ton and Mahomes throwing a ton.
And especially on an Andy Reid team like that, those are the players you should really be targeting to be doing some bizarre things. Like you think with all the time he's had, he doesn't have some crazy scheme for Kareem Hunt to have receptions and Xavier Worthy to have rushing yards and all of those things. So I just think the way the Chiefs running back room has been priced is like they don't really know who their running RB1 is either. And it's like, I think I like Kareem Hunt over 11.5 carries, but I just like the receiving yards because he averages 6.8 yards per catch. So we're really just looking for one catch here. So I like the carries. I like the receiving yards. I don't think he's going to necessarily be completely efficient on the ground, but just to think that a running back isn't getting 12 carries from this team feels a little crazy.
The chat is kind of asking about Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley. Will Shipley's what's the matter?
It's too soon. Kenny.
Too soon. PT. So I think Kenneth Gainwell is playing in this game. He's not on the inactive list, and like I probably wouldn't bet on Will Shipley props if Gainwell is indeed active. It looks like he's plus 440 for 1 yard. I don't know. I'm not really sure exactly what that said, but here's the thing. Will Shipley was awesome at Clemson. He's a rookie, and they have Saquon Barkley, and this is the last game of the season. So, like, unless Kenneth Gainwell gets injured, it's really unlikely that Shipley is going to get out there. They're just going to feed Barkley the entire game until he says, take me out. They'll put Gainwell in for a couple plays, run Gainwell, then bring Barkley right back in. So it's just like really risky to run Shipley up the middle against a defense. It can be advantageous. You have a rookie that fumbles and all of a sudden you flip it. So be a little cautious there. Danny, back to you for your second prop.
Yeah, this is a prop that we've been crushing the books on. We did it once again. If you're a SportsLine member, you beat the line. We got minus 102 on Patrick Mahomes over 5.5 carries. That's now at minus 142. So hopefully you got that in early. But we got this prop to cash in consecutive weeks. We're going for 3 straight. Mahomes had 7 carries against the Texans in the divisional round. He had 11 against the Bills in the conference championship. And we just know his sneaky rushing ability always comes around in the playoffs. He's going to hit you with the pump fake and then take off for that key first down. We get QB rush attempts on kneels. So if the Chiefs are leading or at the end of the half, you do get that benefit, which is certainly a possibility here. But I think he clears it even without that. The Eagles are going to send pressure. You got to get to him. Casey's offensive line has been beatable, so Mahomes is probably going to have to take off if they flush him up the middle with pressure. I can definitely see him clearing this easy. I think he has 7-8 carries in this game.
I don't know if you might mention this, but I saw somebody in the chat say it. I double checked it. It's Saquon Barkley's birthday,
and Cooper DeJean.
Oh boy!
It's a double birthday party.
I'm scared. Look, I mean, like I'm here for white men can't jump and all that, but like Barkley's birthday terrifies me. He might go for 300 yards against the Chiefs today.
I just
RJ.
Sorry, really quick. I just looked. Kenny Gainwell sitting at 6.5 rushing yards, and I would be lying if I said that wasn't very tempting. But I'm going to make some decisions on that later.
RJ, you got a Kelsey prop.
Yeah, my favorite Chiefs player prop is Kelsey to go his longest reception over 19.5 yards. He has not been the same tight end this year. Numbers are down despite what you see on these props in the Super Bowl, which I think a lot of them are inflated because he's Travis Kelsey. This is a big game. But I didn't have confidence to play many of his overs. I do like this one over though, because even in this season where he's been down, he's done it 10 of his 18 games, despite posting the lowest yardage total of his career. So I think obviously he's going to cash this on one catch. If he gets the one catch, doesn't need to hit his overs on reception yards to be able to hit this. So I think considering Nakobe Dean is out, and we know that that's a big factor for the Eagles in how they play defense up the middle, saw that be a flaw in their game where Zach Ertz was having a big game. Tyler Higbee had some good production. I think Travis Kelsey has at least 120-yard catching him.
All right, and Danny, your favorite Chiefs prop involves Patrick Mahomes running the football.
Yeah, I just gave that out. I gave out the over 5.5.
You already mentioned that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like not used to this spreadsheet. Like I forgot we did favorite player props for each team. And so all right, go to your next one because you've got one more, I believe, right?
Yeah, this one I got to give credit to M Squared, Mike McClure, who you'll see on the show later on, but he inspired me to bet DeAndre Hopkins over 11.5 receiving yards. It's a veteran receiver with such a low number. Mahomes, the cast of receivers, it could be anyone, right? I mean, from Hopkins to Juju to, you never know who's going to make that key play. And Hopkins probably going to be matched up against Darius Slay mostly. The Eagles don't really move around their defensive backs too much. They don't rotate them. So I think that's going to be the matchup. And Slay's been the most targeted defensive back against the Eagles. He's actually given up the most yards per target out of any of their corners. So give me D-Hop to make a big play. I think he catches a nice first down for 15 yards, something that's all we need to catch this.
All right, RJ, you have a trio of props that I love that involve like total team yards, total field goals. Hit us with them.
Yeah, I like this. Kind of goes against Ken's pick, I think, with the Kareem Hunt. I like the Chiefs to go under 114.5 rushing yards as a team. Just not something they do consistently, and I think it's going to be a Patrick Mahomes game. Obviously, you want to put the ball in his hand, so I think it's a good look to be able to take the Chiefs rushing yards under, because the Eagles have allowed 115 rushing yards only 3 times this year since week 3, and that was to the Ravens, Cowboys, and Panthers. Ravens are the Ravens. The other 2 teams were committed to not letting their quarterbacks throw too much. That's not going to be the Chiefs in this game. Obviously, they have full confidence in their quarterback. So I like that one. I like taking the longest field goal under 47.5 yards at minus 115 is where I had it from my article. I mean, Jake Elliott, close your ears, Ken's 1 of 7 from 50 plus. The one he hit was exactly 50. He's not a guy you want to trust from that distance. Harrison Butker has not looked good coming back from his injury. Only had 2 50-plus yard field goals all year anyway, and I just don't think he has the confidence. And when you have these 2 offenses that are so good, why are you just not going for it unless you have a more or less sure thing for a field goal if you have to? So I think the only way this screws us is if we get like a 3rd and 5 sack. So you got like 4th and 13 from the 35, and you just have to kick it because you're not confident in picking up that first down. So I really like that one. And then players to attempt to pass over 2.5 at plus 180. Always a fun one for the Super Bowl. The coaches break out their playbooks and dig deep for those trick plays. Probably not going to happen with Patrick Mahomes because he attempts every pass for the Chiefs in Super Bowls. But Eagles, I think if we remember that one of those Commanders games, Saquon took a direct snap. I think it was Kenny Pickett was at quarterback, or maybe he was hurt, and he ran to the right and he pump faked. And I was like, oh, they're putting in your mind for a Saquon pass, here. So I think when the defense is loading up to stop him at some point, you're going to get an open Dallas Goedert on the backside. You're going to get an open receiver, and it's going to be easy pickings for Barkley to throw it for a long gain. So I think Barkley throws a pass in this game.
Philly special, part 2.
That's my favorite prop, like my favorite Super Bowl prop every year. I freaking love it. All right, let's go. Let's see how wide we can go here in terms of number of people we bring onto this stream, and then I'll cue you up, Kens, in a second for your final one. Larry Hartstein, the maestro.
Whoa.
JLC in the house. What's up?
Fredo.
This is like
Yeah.
Eat your heart out. Eat your heart out, Scott Hansen.
This is crazy.
This is like it's like Hollywood Squares. It's like Degenerate Squares or something like that. What's up, guys? How we doing? Everybody excited for the Super Bowl? Got a couple Blazers here. What are we doing?
I didn't know what I was. I don't know. I never.
It's a Super Bowl. Come on.
Yeah. So I'm wearing my green. Kins is and Danny. Kins is actually kidnapped Danny Cannell and has taken over his house. Danny's So like if Danny calls for help, Kins, you got one more prop. And RJ and Danny Brasco, if you guys want to, you guys can hang out. I don't know. You bounce if you want to. Great stuff.
I just
I
wanted
don't know how to
to
handle it.
wait. Okay, before I go, this is what I'm leaving on. I thought this number was crazy. Plus 750 for Saquon Barkley to have the first reception for the Eagles. Plus 7. How many guys? How many options are there really?
Yeah,
and I do
that's
think
weird.
he will be involved in the receiving game. I leave with that.
I'll leave with one last one mic drop for you guys. Last touchdown scorer, Juju Smith-Schuster, plus 2,500. See you later.
I love that,
All right,
by the way.
love it.
Bird. See you.
Fly,
I love
Eagles,
that.
fly, Kens. Let's do it.
All right, RJ. Thanks for stopping by as well, man. You're the best. Kens is already gone. RJ, are you supposed to hang out longer? I can't handle the schedule. There's too many people flying all around.
I mean, I can hang out. I really just showed up to the stream to get these guys picks. So
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, hang out then. And RJ, I'll tell you what, JLC,
Yes, sir.
long time, man.
I know.
Just hanging out with you, buddy.
I like
If you had to
the beard.
pick
I
any,
missed it. You look
Thank
like
you,
a
thank
young
you.
Dan Fouts. You look like a young Dan
Oh,
Fouts.
I love that. I
Huh?
love
How
that.
about that?
JLC, you got what's your take on this game? How does it? Do you go narrative? You go roster? Who do you think wins and why?
I don't think roster matters when we get to this point, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, hey, look, I'm not going to say that this is the best Kansas City Chiefs team we've ever seen. I'm not going to say that on paper they're better than what the Eagles can put on paper. I've seen it too many times. It's not played on paper, and you give Andy Reid 2 weeks to prepare. You give Andy Reid a fully healthy roster. You give Andy Reid flexibility that he could take his best offensive lineman and play him at left tackle or guard, depending on how this game needs to be played. I just don't think I don't think they lose, and I certainly can't bet against them. I mean, 17-3. If that doesn't resonate with you, I don't know what does. Mahomes in the playoffs as a dog or a favorite of 5 points or less, 11-2 against the spread, and you shop around, you can still find this, Chiefs money line minus 115. Like, that's just where I am. It's the first bet I made on this game. I love the odds when it came out 2 Sunday nights ago, and it's still my favorite bet in this game.
All right, Sia, your thought? Well, I feel like we've talked about this. I feel like we've talked about so many games, but your thoughts on this game in particular, and maybe if you were going straight into player props or your any bet on the side or total for you.
Yeah, I'll start with I'll go the other way than JLC, but I have to qualify that. I went the other way against the Chiefs the last 2 years, and guess what? I was wrong both times. I just think we're going to see so much Saquon Barkley, and I do think it's kind of under the radar that the Kansas City Chiefs have been sort of bleeding rushing yards to teams that they shouldn't be bleeding rushing yards against. Let's talk about Joe Mixon and the Houston Texans, the Pittsburgh Steelers late in the year with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. The reason, in my opinion, or at least one of the reasons that the Bills lost last week is because they decided to go to Ty Johnson instead of James Cook in critical situations down the stretch of the game. I think if you look at James Cook's yards per carry in that game, it really made sense to keep him on the field. Well, good news, Nick Sirianni can't outcoach himself here. It's going to be all Saquon all the time. I really do respect this defense. Yes, I'm worried about Patrick Mahomes late. But I'm just going to go with what I think is just a better team on so many levels outside of the one that hurts the most, which is the quarterback position. So I have to concede that. My other play, the first play when it comes to a side or a total that I put on SportsLine was the under of 24 in the first half. This has now gone to 23.5. 23 is in some places, but 23.5 you can definitely get. I still kind of like it there, but let's be honest, the 23.5 and 24, it's kind of a big difference. But I just see a lot of ball control, especially in a neutral game script with both of these teams, short area passing game with Kansas City, and of course the running game with the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't expect a lot of scoring, and I expect maybe a lot of field goals in the first half, maybe on the Chiefs side in particular, especially when the game is close. So give me the first half under.
All right, Larry, you're on the first half play as well, right?
Yeah, I know. I like the Eagles in the first half. You can get it plus 1.5, minus 140. And for the game, I'm on the Eagles +2. But, I've talked about that the two angles I want to talk about are how are each team going to defend the run. And I think the Eagles are going to shut down the Chiefs run. I think the Chiefs are going to get away from that run very quickly and realize every carry to Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco is going to be a wasted carry. And that's one of the reasons I love Mahomes over his completions at 23.5, especially going against the Vic Fangio defense, which we know does not give up explosive passes. The Chiefs don't even attempt explosive passes anymore. Patrick Mahomes' ADOT is so short. There's so many quick throws, and we know how great he is. So, aside from this pick that's up on the screen, one of my favorite props is Mahomes to go over his completions and over 23.5. And on the other side, how I think the Chiefs are going to defend the run, they're going to stack the box. That's what they did 2 years ago. They held the running backs of the Eagles, Miles Sanders at the time, plus Gainwell, plus Boston Scott, 45 yards on 17 carries. Now, Saquon's going to get his 100, I believe, but it's not going to be this 180, 200 breakout game. I think the Chiefs will do a solid job, and they're going to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. So over 26.5 attempts for Jalen Hurts was my favorite play on Jalen Hurts. Now it's up to 27.5. I would still lean over. He got to 28 attempts in a blowout of Washington in the NFC title game. He got to 38 attempts the last time he was in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So that's just how I think it's going to play out. That's my thesis for how this thing goes.
All right. Let's get to some player props. And by the way, I'm an idiot for letting those guys go. So we're gonna build a parlay with like 10 all 10 of the people who come on the show. I mentioned that, and then like with these shows, like sometimes like it can get like going, and all of a sudden there's 17 people on the screen, and you forget to get the props from them. I'm gonna go get these from everybody, so we're good on those. Kansas taking Saquon anytime touchdown as far as that's -200. So we're looking at like we want like juicy props, the things that we can get there, right? Like the Sia special where he puts together 5 or 6 things that are like, and I mean that complimentary, where like you can clear those bars fairly easily. So Kansas going Saquon anytime touchdown. Danny's got Dallas Goddard 4+ receptions. What do you have on your parlay card, RJ?
I have Saquon 100 yards. My favorite parlay of the game is Saquon 100+ yards, which is -210 around there. And anytime touchdown brings your parlay down to +105 or so, maybe even a little bit better. They're just very correlated. I think he's had 14 games where he's had 100 yards and he got a scored touchdown in 10 of them. And the 10 games he scored a touchdown, he had 100 yards in all of them. So it's just when he does one, he does the other, like bringing them both together, getting them down to that plus range. And so Ken's has one half of that. I have the other half for a group parlay.
All right. What do you have for yourself here, JLC, in the parlay?
I think what I gave you guys was Xavier Worthy 50 yards or over. But like my
that is
favorite,
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
But fire away on some player. Fire away on your player props too if you want.
But there's a few that I really like.
Okay.
Like Butker over 1.5 field goals. I don't think Andy Reid chases points. I think Andy Reid is okay taking 3. I think he trusts Spags and he trusts his quarterback in the clutch. So points are points. So I think Butker in a dome is going to have opportunity. I mean, the guy had 4 of them last year. He's got I think he's got two attempts in 8 of his last 11 playoff games. And I love Samaje Perine over 7.5 receiving yards. Like everybody's trying to figure out Pacheco and Hunt and how that's going to play out. I think the Chiefs come out throwing the ball, trying to get up early on these guys and taking Barkley away. I think it's high percentage passes out the wazoo. And I think their best pass protector, Perine's going to be on the field quite a bit. I could see them starting the game with almost a 2-minute offense approach and keeping their 2-minute personnel on the field in non-traditional 2-minute settings. Like this guy's got 8 receiving yards or more in 14 of his last 15 games. He's got 13 or more receiving yards in 12 of his last 16. And I also think they're going to be in their fair share of 2nd and longs and 3rd and longs because the offensive line has issues at the tackle position. So I think Perine, I think he's sneaky for an anytime touchdown. Like he might be the Jerick McKinnon in this game.
Yeah.
I have we do this squares pool I mentioned where like you pay out by the minute, but you also get paid if like your square is like if it's like KC 7 Philly 3, you get the jersey number for the first and the last touchdown for each of those teams, and we came away with Mahomes, Perine, and Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'm feeling like I want the Samaje Perine game. Give it to me. Sia, you got a player prop for us or player props?
Yeah, I've got a few. The one I've used for the parlay, though, for the record, I like the Samaje Perine angle, and I like the over 23.5 completions angle. I was waffling on all the shows we did these last 2 weeks. I was waffling on the over 23.5 completions, and it was only because I do worry about ball control, particularly on the Philly side, and like 7-8 minute type drives, which could, land Mahomes on like 22 or 23 instead of 24, 25, 26. But I got to say, I like both of those. Another one that was mentioned by Danny Brasco, and I think just by you and a couple of others, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's my one for the group parlay. I have him over 16.5 receiving yards. If you follow me on Twitter, people were asking me for like kind of crazy parlays. I put a plus 900 one on there, which actually had Juju as a part of it. And then I put like a plus 100 and like it was like 112 to 1 or something, which also included Juju Smith-Schuster. But listen, when it comes to the defensive backs for the Philadelphia Eagles, they are going to not shut down any receivers necessarily, but we're looking at Xavier Worthy. We're looking at Hollywood Brown getting a lot of attention. Travis Kelce. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to get lost in the shuffle. And usually when he gets the ball, he's in space, which is what I absolutely love here. I think he could take his longest reception over 10.5 receiving yards, but I like him to get a couple catches. And if he does, he'll be over 17 yards.
All right. Larry, your parlay piece, if you will.
Dallas,
I'm going to disappear for like 3 seconds while I let this dog out the door.
Go for it. I mean, Dallas Goedert has such a great matchup, and I heard Proppy make a really good case why the catches prop is a little inflated, and he might land on 4. But I still think he's going to get the yards because the Chiefs have just been burned so badly. And if you watch the way Bolton and Tranquil cover tight ends, you can definitely see Goddard, who just looks so good. But the other pieces I wanted to talk about were the anytime touchdowns that I love. Jalen Hurts. I mean, 3 times last week, 3 times in the previous Super Bowl, 18 this season, 12 of 18 games. He gets in the end zone. And Xavier Worthy on the other side, 4 of the last 6 games he has scored because they are just scheming up ways. It's cliche by now to hear it, but it's true. They're getting him the ball in so many different ways. He's got the speed advantage over everyone on that field. So give me Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs and Jalen Hurts for the Eagles.
All right. I'm going to give you a bet you didn't expect. Sia, watch this magic. Sia is now Sia. I just handed Sia the wheel to the car. I'm not going anywhere. I got some bets I'll give out, but Sia is going to take us down the home stretch.
Well, Brinson, how about we hear the bets that you haven't put out? I mean, I heard you on the front end of the show against the spread totals. I heard some of that stuff, but tell me about the bets that you have yet to give out.
Yeah, so I mentioned I like the Dallas Goedert over receiving yards along with Danny Brasco. I just think Goddard is going to he's a safety net for Jalen Hurts. I think they'll try to use him. Like and frankly, he's just been awesome in the playoffs his entire career. He's kind of a gamer who steps up in these spots. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to run a bunch in this game. So I'm on his over longest rush, 12.5. I've got a bomb parlay or prop bet that I like here. Xavier Worthy, first to 20 rushing yards. So, we just want the Chiefs to get the ball. Xavier Worthy gets in it like a jet sweep or like an end around. He goes, 20 yards down the field. That's 28-1. I love that bet. I also think you could look at Mahomes for first to 20 yards, or even Kareem Hunt, who's I think Hunt's 4-1. Mahomes is 7-1. I also have Jalen Hurts. You can find it. I think it's at FanDuel. I saw it, but it's Jalen Hurts to get the first down of the game is 14-1. You give me a 3rd and short early on for the Eagles in the spot where they feel like they need to go, or a 4th and short. That's Jalen Hurts territory. I like that at that big number. And then the 2 touchdown scores I've got are Xavier Worthy plus 155. I know that's popular. Kins has him too. RJ, I believe you do as well. And then Jalen Hurts for the Eagles, which, not to spoil it, you can see it on the screen, seems to be the most popular Eagles touchdown scorer for all of us.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense, especially at the number you're getting. What was it, around minus 120, correct, on Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown?
Yeah, 115, I think, yeah.
Okay. Let's do the anytime touchdown thing, because I don't know if everybody's giving them out. RJ, I'm going to start with you. Did you give your anytime touchdowns for both sides of the ball?
No, I mean, I have Hurts like almost everyone does. It's just a slant. He had 1 fewer touchdown in the regular season than Barkley, 1 fewer touchdown in the playoffs than Barkley, and he's minus 115 and Barkley's like 200, minus 200 to score a touchdown. So it's just a value play there. If we think that Barkley's minus 200 to score a touchdown, Hurts has to be a value at minus 115. So love taking him there. And then the Worthy side, I just found he was the best value. 3rd on the Chiefs in odds at plus 155, 1st on the Chiefs in touchdowns in the regular season. And has come on lately, I believe, touchdowns in either 4 of the last 5 or 5 of the last 6. I can't remember. But just really becoming a key part of that offense, much like Rashee Rice last year. So I think we're getting good value on him versus guys like Travis Kelce and even Kareem Hunt, even though we know Kareem Hunt as a running back is going to have those opportunities just because Worthy has done it over and over down the stretch.
I love all things Xavier Worthy, by the way. I like his over receptions, which is, plus money because it's 5.5. I lean his over yards. I like his anytime touchdown. JLC, my anytime touchdowns and yours are the same. So I don't even need to talk about mine. And I don't think you've given out yours yet. What are they?
Well, like everybody else, the value on Hurts just for, I mean, I don't need to belabor the point there. Push everything else. I just feel like the way that's priced, that's more attractive to me than any of the other crapshoots out there for the Eagles. And then I mean, I just go with Kelce. The guy has been a machine, and they're getting away from 12 personnel now in the red zone. And I think they could put together some really interesting personnel groupings with 2 weeks to work on this game, where you've got one big-bodied guy in Kelce, and then you got all these wee little guys, right? You've got the Hollywood Browns, and you've got your Xavier Worthies, and you throw a Pirine body type in there, and you might get a matchup for Kelsey that they like, especially in goal-to-go situations. Like, I mean, and we know the innate like chemistry between these two guys. Like, does Mahomes just do a sky hook? Does he do a James Worthy or Kareem sky hook over the line to Kelsey? You know, a pop pass, whatever. Like, I think he'll have his moments in this game. I don't think he's going to dominate this game, but with their history and what this guy's done in the clutch, I just looked at the value. I looked at the numbers and said, I'm on it.
JLC, I love the James Worthy reference. If you have a basketball player that like hasn't been brought up in a conversation in like, let's say 10 years, but probably should have been, I feel like James Worthy would be the answer to that. If you have one in the chat, I know I don't want to change to NBA necessarily. Throw a name in the chat that like probably should in the NBA that probably should be talked about maybe a little bit more and just isn't. I think it'll throw people off who join the chat. They'll be like, is this an NBA stream? I don't know what's going on.
Julius Hodge.
Julia, exactly. Larry Hartstein, did you give out your anytime touchdowns?
I did. I'm on Worthy and Jalen Hurts like a lot of people. But the one play I didn't get a chance to talk about that I want to just pipe in with here is the Chiefs to get the first sack. Now, this has gone up. It was minus 105 when I bet it. Now it's looking like minus 130 at a lot of books. But I still like it. I mean, Spags is going to blitz a lot more than the Eagles are going to blitz. And we know Mahomes is so good at avoiding sacks, whereas Jalen Hurts was really bad this year in terms of taking sacks, 23.2% pressure to sack rate. So almost 1 in 4 times when they get pressure, he is going down. Now, he's been very careful with the ball. He's thrown one interception since late September. So that's part of it. He doesn't want to throw any picks. He knows he has a great running game. He knows he has a great defense that, you know, that he can punt the ball, but he has just been holding on to the ball so long. So I just love this prop. I think the Chiefs get the first sack. They got him 5 times the last time they faced him.
And how about we go around the board now for first touchdown? Because I don't think we've given that one out yet.
No, we didn't.
I'll start with you, Will.
Yeah, that was, I would say it's a bad job. I mean, we did get started late, and then we, all of a sudden it's like 4:29 and Kansas talking about NBA players. I'm going to go off the deep end here. I've been calling my shot for several weeks now, for 2 weeks, I guess. Noah Gray, 28-1 first touchdown score. Anytime's touchdown score 5-1. I know he's not obviously the shortest number, not the most likely guy. But as we know, see, I have 2 diamonds. And I believe that we could see some Travis Kelce shenanigans where he gets in the Wildcat and maybe even throws to Noah Gray. I think we'll see Mahomes maybe move around down by the goal line. That could involve, Noah Gray leaking out, maybe some play action stuff. I just think when they get down to the goal line, you're going to see the Eagles lock it on Xavier Worthy because they know the funky stuff that the Kansas City likes to run, lock it on Travis Kelce, and that's just going to leave Noah Gray with the possibility of being wide open with nobody looking for him. Mahomes finds him on the right side of the end zone. First touchdown score, 28-1. We rip pants and do a no pants party.
I actually kind of like that call, particularly at the number. Real quick, hit me with a last touchdown score, and then we're going to go around the horn with first and last touchdown score.
Yeah, I'm going. I think the 2 last touchdown scores I would look at. P. Ryan, I think, is really interesting for that spot. But Patrick Mahomes at 20-1. You saw against the Bills, he set a career high for playoff rushing attempts, career high for playoff rushing touchdowns in a single game. And he scored the Chiefs' last touchdown, where they are just really comfortable right now designing plays that utilize Patrick Mahomes' legs. I think that's something that, even though they put it on tape last week, they could still surprise the Eagles when they bust out some read option stuff or bootleg Mahomes, like knowing he's going to take off and run. So I like Mahomes at 20-1. I think you could definitely see him running down by the goal line, particularly if they're stymieing Kareem Hunt in that rush game.
RJ, give me first and last.
First touchdown, I'm going Dallas Goedert. We talked about the matchup advantages we think he has earlier in the show, and I think that's going to be even more pronounced down by the goal line. In fact, my trick play Saquon Barkley, call throwing a pass could be to him, I think, for the first touchdown. So I just think that value at 18-1 is good for Goddard. Last touchdown scores, since I don't think we're following the gem rules there, I just put Jalen Hurts, the guy that I think I love the most to score a touchdown in this game at plus 700.
That's, by the way, my favorite MVP call for this game, too, at the number around plus 350, plus 370. Yeah. JLC, first and last touchdown score.
I went with Kelsey for the first one. I'm not going to tell you I have a whole lot of faith in it. We're throwing darts here, but I do think the Chiefs again come out throwing. I think they want to make the Eagles chase this game, and I think if you just study their personnel usage a little bit in the red zone in the playoffs versus the regular season, I think they may be able to create a matchup for Kelsey that they like. And then last one, look, I kind of think that the Chiefs are going to boss this game a little bit. And I think they're going to make Hurts open it up and take shots against man coverage, against the blitz downfield. And if they're chasing the game and you're throwing a jump ball to somebody, A.J. Brown's as good of a target as anybody. So I kind of could see that like Kansas City up by like 9 or something late, and they're in throw mode. And this guy does something to make this thing get a little hot and sweaty the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, that analysis on A.J. Brown is why I kind of like him as a first touchdown scorer, because at plus anywhere between plus 1,100, plus 1,300. And that's because the box is going to be stacked either way when they get inside the green zone. And it would be a really good opportunity for Jalen Hurts to hit a back shoulder throw, single coverage to somebody like A.J. Brown. Larry, before I get to your first and last, my first, of course, is A.J. Brown. My last is the Eagles defense. And this is more like wish casting. Like if I actually think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to lose, they're in comeback mode to win the game like they always do. When I say comeback mode, like they might be down 3, or maybe it's a tie game or something like that. Short area passes, the safe passes, they all work all the time. Maybe we get an Eagles DB jumping a route, quick 6, seals the game, and that's all she wrote. So I'm going to go 30-1 on Eagles defense, last touchdown. Larry, talk to me first and last.
Yeah, I'm going first, A.J. Brown. The Chiefs are playing more man coverage in the playoffs, and that is what A.J. Brown thrives against. That's the guy that Jalen Hurts is not afraid to throw it up as soon as he sees that he's got man-to-man, especially when the Chiefs blitz. I didn't come with the last one, but, you know, in the FanDuel $5 million pot for the first and last touchdown, I was looking for Nolan Smith, kind of like what you were talking about with an Eagles defensive touchdown, because you have to split the pot with everybody who cashes that. So I went with Grant Calcaterra at 2,200 to be the last touchdown scorer, because the Chiefs are vulnerable to tight ends. And I didn't want to get Saquon Barkley and split, $5 million with like 100 million people.
That's completely
first world problems.
Right. Don't give me that money. I want the 1% chance of this money. But I would do the same thing for the record. I don't know if it would be Calcaterra or somebody else, but I would pick somebody completely obscure, maybe like a Noah Gray or a Kenny Gainwell or a Will Shipley, somebody like just on nobody's radar to actually score a touchdown. Hey, I know we're going to rotate people in a second. RJ, I want to start with some chat questions. We're going to be answering these chat questions, viewer questions, I should say, until kickoff. So keep them coming. We have a few starred. Michael Berry, RJ, this one's for you. Does Hopkins catch 2 passes tonight? And just before you answer the question, a lot of people, including Mike McClure, who's about to hop on, they like Hopkins to hit his over more in the yards than the receptions, but I think he likes both, actually. I like Juju, and I wonder, is there room for both, or do we have to declare one or the other? And if so, who do you declare?
Yeah, I think it's probably one or the other. And I also like Juju. He's had these spots before, in these big games. So we know that Mahomes trusts him. Mahomes should trust Hopkins. He obviously has a great resume, but been a little more, disappearing in the offense lately. So I can definitely see it with him. But, I think it's kind of you pick one or the other. But I don't mind playing one of those two to have a much better game than we expect.
All right, so we might have an opportunity here, gentlemen, before we get to the next chat question and roll through so many more picks. We might have an opportunity for, is it Steve Hansen? Is he the Redzone guy?
Scott Hansen.
Excuse me, I should have known that. I like Scott Hansen quite a bit, and I'm always watching Redzone.
Josh Allen.
Let's go Scott Hansen Octobox right now, if we can. I think we might have 8 here, 7. That's 8. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Octobox. Wow. You'll be enjoying this for the next 33 minutes. Enjoy it. It is going to be commercial free. What's up, Mike? What's up, Propstarz? What's up, Dave? We're having fun here. We're giving out bets. We're going to hear your bets. We're going to answer the viewer questions. Mike, how you doing? It's your Chiefs against Propstarz Eagles. How you feeling? What are vibes like?
I'm feeling good, Sia. Fired up to be here in what looks like a SportsLine Zoom call that I love those that we get often. We don't have them as often as we used to, so I'm enjoying this one here. Fired up for this game, though, obviously. I'm not biased at all in any way, shape, or form tonight.
Propstarz, heat check on you liking that. We were just on HQ. I know you're pretty confident about your Eagles. Listen, I like your Eagles too, but disclaimer, I also like the team playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year and the year before. I was wrong both times. How you feeling about your Eagles?
I'm feeling good, gentlemen. And before I talk about the Eagles, it feels like we should start singing "We Are the World" or something with all of us here. Yeah, I'm fired up for the Eagles. I think this is going to be a great game. Obviously, the spread reflects that as well. Where I am personally located in the Pacific Northwest, I've seen a ton of Eagles garb. I've also seen a ton of Kansas City garb. So, yeah, I'm 50-50 on the game, but I'm fired up.
All right. So before Dave, I get to you because I wanna intro you properly into the show. Larry, you're ducking out, right? You're putting in your last minute bets. You're getting into Discord, whatever you're doing. You're ducking out of the Octo Box, correct?
I enjoyed it, guys. Have a great game. I want everyone to win, but more importantly, I want the Eagles to win. So let's
go Birds.
See you, Larry.
Fair enough. All right. There goes Larry. Dave, one of my favorite people, one of everybody's favorite people. How you doing today? And by the way, who you rooting? We'll get to your bet. Who you rooting for?
I think the Chiefs will win, but I'm expecting a good game. I'm expecting a kind of low-scoring, slower pace type game.
Yeah.
On Friday, on our early edge player prop preview, we talked about like what player props fit into that type of game script. We had some really good discussions about it. If you're bored with the 7 of us on YouTube, you can go find that video and get our picks from Friday's show. It's me, it's Proper Rooney, and it's EC. I'm just curious. 2 questions. Number 1, is there a single prop that we all agree on? And I don't know how we'd even figure that out. Number 2, is there a showdown bet between McClure and Proppy, Chiefs versus Eagles, winner take all? There's got to be something there between the two of you.
Propstarz, go ahead.
Mikey, let's do a triple showdown. We'll just do straight up win or lose.
Perfect.
A triple showdown.
Purple.
Wow.
Wow.
First time ever.
Yep.
Coming out firing. That's a good question about whether or not there's a prop we all will. Do you know if there is one that most people agree on?
The closest one would be Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown scorer. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different analysts who will be on the show. Out of the 10, the only ones who didn't probably you have AJ Brown anytime touchdown. Do you like the Hurts anytime touchdown as well? And then Dave, I don't know if you had one in there. If you like Hurts as well, then we have a clean sweep.
What is the price?
One is minus 115.
Oh, beautiful. In.
Sure. I'll come in. I'll join. I don't want to be the out.
There we go. Right.
I think the Jalen Hurts anytime. I do think the price is pretty great. Listen, it's an anytime touchdown, so there's never really value on those. If we're being completely honest, like a lot of that value has been sort of taken out of that market over the last couple of years. But when comparing to the other players, it does make sense that Jalen Hurts at minus 115, even at minus 120, I think is a pretty solid take. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We've got 29 minutes, and I want to get to some of the chat questions, but I also want to get through some of your bets as well. Real quick, let's cover a couple of the bets that you all have, and then we're going to toggle back and forth with the chat to see what they have to ask you all as well. Let's start with Proppy. I think we know this, right? We don't need the analysis on the Eagles. You like the Eagles. I know you've been talking about it all week, including the prop show. You like the Eagles. Is there a total that you like?
If I had to lean one way, it'd be the under, but nothing I have a lot of conviction in.
And Mike, same goes for you. I know you like the Chiefs. I don't know if you have anything to add there, but is there a total you like in this one?
Sia, the only total that I really like is one that we've been playing a lot. It's the Chiefs first half over, only because it's offered at 12.5, not 13.5. Just kind of really a system play for me where you can get this offense, touchdown, 2 field goals, cash a ticket. I just think they're so good at scripted drives, opening drives, and the fact that it's a dome with perfect conditions for Harrison Butker. So if I had to play a total, it would be Chiefs first half over 12.5.
All right. We saw JLC had to bounce. He's got another obligation Super Bowl related. Big thank you to him for joining. Will Brinson, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I'm going to bounce too because I think I've given all my bets and I don't want to sit here and hog up the yapping time. You take us out.
All right, Will. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hosting, obviously, and we'll see you soon. Yeah,
see you, boys.
See you, Will. All right. We're going to see Will very soon, of course. All right, so go ahead, Propstarz. Yeah.
I had a question for all of you. I would love each of your takes if you're interested in giving one. What do you think if you were so one category I've been betting a lot, both in the regular season and also the postseason, are head-to-head matchups, with individual players. And one that I like quite a bit is Travis Kelce to have more receiving yards than Dallas Goedert. I'm curious what you guys would set the line at. If you aren't familiar with this category or this particular prop, for Travis Kelce to have more receiving yards than Dallas Goedert, I'd love to see what you guys think is an appropriate price.
I'll jump in first. I would probably set it, and then RJ, I'm going to go to you on this one, and we'll just go around the horn. I would set it at Travis Kelce minus probably 8.5 or 9.5, but I'll settle on 8.5. Personally, that's how I'd set it.
I'm saying just on him to have more yards.
So
like a money line price on it.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. What would you say?
I'll jump in. Yeah. So I really think I'd say two things here to that property. I really think it matters which side of the game you like in general, right? I think that there's way more paths to Travis Kelce getting there game script wise, but the game script that I think happens here is I actually do think Philadelphia is extremely competitive, potentially leading a lot of this game. And that's where I think Travis Kelce is just going to absolutely blow by Dallas Goedert. Because that is the game script that I think is more likely. I would set it all the way up to minus 200. And if you think that it's, Kansas City is kind of ahead and when Kansas City doesn't blow anybody out, they're going to be up by 3 points essentially. If that's the game script you're expecting, then I would say probably minus 140, minus 150 would be still a fair price.
And Poppy, what is the price?
So the price is minus 160, and it's my largest individual position in this game. Is that particular prop for Travis Kelce to have more receiving yards than Dallas Goedert. So, yeah.
All right, real quick. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
So I'm going to look up what the alts are. So my question for you then, Proppy, would be if Travis Kelce his line is set at 59.5, would you rather play him to have more yards at minus 160, or would you rather play an alt down to say 45 at minus 160?
I'd probably take the alt down to 45, but yeah, that's close.
Yeah. Cool.
RJ, what do you think? Travis Kelce at minus 160 there.
I think it's too much. I think that too much can happen, and he hasn't been, the player he's been in the past. So I don't really like the other side either, because I think the Goddard side is probably priced, plus 100, plus a 10. They have a massive spread there. So I would just avoid that prop. But no, I'm not taking positive Kelce plays. I think one that I saw when I was putting together my 59 picks article, which is up at SportsLine, you have 25 minutes to read it and get bets in if you want to go read that. But it was Jalen Hurts to score the touchdown before Travis Kelce at minus 125, thinking Kelce only has like 3 touchdowns this season and Hurts has 14. I'm like, that should be a lot higher. That should be in that minus 160 range that you guys are talking about here at least. So I saw that one. I was like, well, that's going in the article for sure.
Very interesting. Dave, what do you feel about just Kelce in general? Like, I think it's, what is it, at 61 range?
I see it at 61.5.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be, and this sounds so silly to say because everyone knows this, I think he's going to be a big part of what the Chiefs do. When I studied the Eagles defense, it's Vic Fangio. He plays a lot of zone coverage, 2 high safeties, doesn't blitz very much. Doesn't mean he doesn't get pressure that way, but he doesn't blitz very much. And that's going to make it easier for Patrick Mahomes to kind of dink and dunk his way down the field. And we've seen it so many times this year. I think Kelce gets involved there. And I think that they really try and attack that matchup against their linebackers. It's Zach Bond. It's Oren Burks. We've already seen it in 3 playoff games. At least one tight end has at least 5 catches against Philadelphia. 2 of them have 7 catches, and it's each of the last 2 games. It's really been since Nakobe Dean went down. I think it makes all the sense in the world for Kansas City to lean on that short area game, especially if the Eagles are taking away those passes of, let's call it 12-plus yards down the field.
Totally agree. Let's do this. Let's do our favorite Eagles and Chiefs prop that we kind of put in the document. And Dave, I'm going to actually start with you on this one. Let's cover them real fast, because maybe with just a sentence or 2 of analysis, because I do want to get to some of the chat questions too. We still have 23 minutes, which sounds like a lot of time, but it's not really. So Dave, give me an Eagles prop and a Chiefs prop that you'd recommend.
My favorite Eagles prop is Devontae Smith under 4.5 receptions. When we've seen Jalen Hurts pressured, and Kansas City is obviously going to pressure him a lot, even with that offensive line. I don't think that offensive line is at 100% for Philadelphia. When he's pressured, he's not looking for Devontae Smith. I believe in 3 playoff games, he's got a target per route run rate under 3%, Sia. Whoa. He's barely getting targeted in that situation. And this is still going to be a game where Philadelphia is going to want to run the ball, lean on Saquon Barkley, lean on Jalen Hurts running the ball too. Play action should benefit further downfield shots to A.J. Brown. And if he's covered and if Devontae's covered, then Dallas Goedert, that's when he could really get into the mix. And we've seen it 3 straight games for Devontae Smith, 4 catches, 4 targets in each of those games as well.
Wow, very interesting. And then on the Chiefs side, did you give that one out?
My favorite one of the entire Super Bowl is Patrick Mahomes over 5.5 rushing attempts, and that includes kneel downs in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, Mahomes talked about it this week. He doesn't mind putting his body on the line this time of season. We've seen it in the playoffs. He's done it in 3 or 4 Super Bowls, 6+ rushing attempts. And if the Eagles are going to lean on this zone coverage and they're not going to blitz that much, that means that Mahomes will be able to escape the pocket and take off a few times. He'll take a couple of kneels as well. He should get at least 6 carries in the game.
Mike, give me a favorite, if you have it, a favorite Eagles and Kansas City prop.
Yeah, nothing I played on the Eagles side. If I did anything, it would be just Jahan Dotson unders, just essentially no catches, no yardage, things like that. As far as the favorite prop on the Kansas City side, it's DeAndre Hopkins for me. I played it over 11.5 yards, willing to take a shot, knowing that the most likely outcome here, there are 2 of them. It's 0 or probably around 17, 18 yards are the 2 more likely outcomes. I'm willing to buy into the fact that there's some narrative stuff here with DeAndre Hopkins chasing a Super Bowl ring, additional time to get prepared. If you watch the AFC title game, what stood out to me in a big way was kind of a mistake by Kansas City. Right before first half, they had 1st and goal. They could have run the football there effectively if they didn't get in, running the clock out to ensure that they didn't let Buffalo touch the football again. Instead, they targeted DeAndre Hopkins in the end zone. I think he's still going to have his role in the end zone, and I think there will be scripted plays. But what I said earlier, as far as Travis Kelce versus Dallas Goedert, I think there's a scenario here where Kansas City is down 10 points in this football game. If they are, and that means they're struggling, where I think that Hopkins can excel is just quick timing routes. That's where I think he's going to have some success. And if you look at the defensive front for the Eagles, that's how I think they win this game, is just having some disruption. I think that we know Kansas City has no running game. So for me, it's just, there's a high probability we get some timing routes. We maybe get a scripted drive out of the locker room. So let's go over 11.5 on DeAndre Hopkins.
Proppy, favorite Eagles and or Kansas City prop.
Yeah, so as far as the Eagles are concerned, one of my core betting philosophies is buying low and selling high. And I think Dallas Goedert provides like a great example of that. Under 4.5 receptions, you can still find this prop at plus money. 5 receptions is a huge number for Goddard. Been under in 2 of 3 playoff games, 9 of 13 games, including the regular season. Despite making a big impact in the playoffs, he's just not a high volume tight end or receiver here. Also, if we look at the Eagles offense as a whole, this is one of the lowest volume passing attacks in the league. They have Jalen Hurts in the first 2 games dropped back a combined 41 times. So there's just not enough volume to sustain multiple receivers. A.J. Brown is also healthier, getting that extra week. He looked very good in the NFC Championship game as well. So I think additional targets are going to be funneled to him. So I just think 5 receptions is a huge ask for Goddard. Even with him getting, more looks, it's still a big number. So this is much closer to his ceiling than his floor. The price point is phenomenal. I really like fading Dallas Goedert in a myriad of ways. And then as far as Chiefs props are concerned, I like Kelce quite a bit, but another one that I wanted to mention, Xavier Worthy under 5.5 receptions. I like quite a bit. The Eagles have arguably the best secondary in the NFL. 3rd in EPA allowed per dropback, 1st in success rate. They're particularly good covering the boundaries and outside wide receivers. They struggle a little bit over the middle of the field in the intermediate and short routes, but they're very good against boundary wide receivers. So I think we're going to see Xavier Worthy, see a lot of various Eagles corners who are very good. Quinyon Mitchell, a little rookie on rookie violence as well. So I like fading Worthy under 5.5 receptions. I think this is close to his top as well. We're going to sell here. And I also love fading Dallas Goedert under 4.5 receptions.
My pushback on the Worthy thing is it doesn't matter who's covering him when the ball is thrown to him in 1 second, because that's where they're using Worthy. Like, the coverage can't really get there. They're playing off coverage anyway for the most part. He's getting it in that wide receiver screen quick out roll. So it's not one of those situations where we conceive of him like being downfield and being shut down by Quinyon or something else. With that said, 5.5 is a ton of catches. So I absolutely understand the take, regardless of what I just said. Let's transition. RJ, I want to ask you about Hollywood Brown. Jive Turkey in the chat is asking about his over 38.5 receiving yards. Like, clearly we like Kelsey. Xavier Worthy, some people are on, at least in terms of gobbling up some volume. We talked about Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, maybe getting a look here or there. I feel like Hollywood Brown, like from a betting standpoint, at least on this show, is the odd man out. But 38.5 isn't a tremendous amount of yards. What do you think of that prop?
Yeah, it's still pretty high. I mean, it's kind of like whack-a-mole with these Chiefs receivers. And he kind of is the second guy, in odds. And I think he's the guy that you typically fade. You think Worthy's probably going to get, if you think Worthy's going to get his, so you have to fade one of them. So if you like Worthy, would not play Marquise Brown.
All right. Let's see. Mike, I do want to ask you about Hollywood Brown. Was that a consideration for you to even look at his props one way or the other?
I don't mind him. I think that to really have a lot of confidence in Hollywood Brown, I think you really need to bet on a very specific game script for me. So I'm not interested in fading him necessarily, and I'm not interested in backing him, just kind of staying away.
And just to piggyback on that, if I may, Sia.
Yeah.
His target per route run rate in the past 5 games with Mahomes has been 35% when Mahomes has not been pressured. It's his go-to guy when he has time to throw. There really isn't a lot of pass rush coming at him. I don't think that's going to be the case that often against this Eagles defense today. That makes me want to take a big step back on Marquise Brown overs.
Let's get to another. That's a great point. Let's get to another question. This is from Sox Nation. This is a bet that I was actually considering earlier on in the week. I never actually bet it, but Dave, I'm going to stick with you on this one.
Sure.
Sox Nation asks, what about largest lead under 13.5 at minus 110?
Talked about this one on the live show on Friday. We went through all of our favorite player props and even some of our exotic bets, and this is one of them. I went and I studied. I think it's only been once this year when Kansas City trailed by 2 touchdowns or more in a game was week 18 when their starters weren't playing against the Denver Broncos. And Philadelphia rarely has been behind something like it's under 500 plays combined for both Philadelphia and Kansas City, where they're either up by 2+ touchdowns or down by 2+ touchdowns. It doesn't happen that much. Kansas City's been in a bunch of 1-score games all year long. I think this will be another one where it'll vary anywhere between 3-10 points, where the biggest lead in the game. I do like this under quite a bit.
All right. Before we get to more questions, let's do some anytime touchdowns. I think, RJ, we probably got yours, right? Mike, let's start with you. Did you touch the anytime touchdown market, or at least would there be somebody you'd recommend on the Chiefs side or the Eagles side?
Yeah, for me, I'm back on the DeAndre Hopkins train. Played at plus 650. It has bounced back down to plus 500 today on game day, but I still like DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's still going to be on the field in the red zone, and I think he's still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in that specific situation. But the good news here is he's not the focal point in the red zone defensively. It's going to be a lot on Travis Kelce, essentially a spy on Patrick Mahomes. I like just his ability, and I know that that's where he's got the timing with Mahomes on some of those short area passes. So I like Hopkins here. Plus 650 is where I played it.
All right. Let's go to Propstarz next. Anytime touchdowns, Eagles and or Chiefs.
I like Kareem Hunt quite a bit. I think he's being undervalued in this whole game. If we look at the snap count, 38 snaps in the AFC Championship game. That's more than Carson Steele, Isaiah Pacheco, and Samaje Perine combined for. I just think he's the guy right now. Pacheco clearly is not operating at 100%. He's been producing. They trust him as far as pass protection is concerned. So, yeah, I think he's going to be on the field quite a bit, get a lot of red zone looks. Eric Casillas mentioned a bet that I like quite a bit in my previous appearance with him, and that was Kareem Hunt to score the first Kansas City touchdown. And I believe it's at plus 450 if I'm not mistaken. So that was a tremendous look in my opinion. So, yeah, I just think Kareem Hunt, I think he has kind of touchdowns in 4 consecutive games, if I'm not mistaken, both playoff games as well. So, yeah, I think Kareem Hunt is a very good value.
Dave, talk to me about an anytime touchdown score.
So I think there's 4 players that we can all agree on are are pretty safe to score a touchdown, or at least, the odds would tell you that it's safe. It's Saquon Barkley, it's Jalen Hurts, it's Kareem Hunt, it's Travis Kelce. Who would be fifth? I think you can make the case for A.J. Brown, but I think you can also make the case for Patrick Mahomes and how, as I talked about earlier, those rush attempts, how he doesn't mind putting his body on the line. The Chiefs are going to get in the red zone quite a bit in this game. They'll belly up to the goal line. It doesn't have to be Kareem Hunt. I do like that prop too, as long as the odds are good. I'm looking at my local book and it says plus 115. I see Mahomes at plus 260. I like that a lot better. Patrick Mahomes to score a rushing touchdown anytime in the game at plus 260.
All right. Let's do something, since we have like 12, 13 minutes. If you all have a question, put it in, or even a comment, a bet that you want us to consider that you've already made, put it in the chat. But there was the group parlay thing that we talked about sort of in the middle of the show. We've given out, RJ, I think we gave out yours earlier as well. And if memory serves, it was Saquon 100 plus rushing yards, right? At minus 210. That's part of the group parlay pick. Larry's
Correct.
was Dallas Goedert 50 plus receiving yards. Mike, what was yours for the group parlay pick?
Back to DeAndre Hopkins. We haven't talked about him enough, in my opinion, today. So give me 11 and a half yards. I have a pretty big position on Hopkins overall, grabbing 12 yards in this game.
All right. And Propstarz, what's yours?
I'm getting compelled to go bet DeAndre Hopkins after Mike. Mike's backing him.
It's such a low number. I don't blame you.
The best part of it is there's a very likely outcome where he has 0, and everyone's going to be very happy with me when that if that comes in.
I think you've earned. I think you've earned a couple mics. So, as far as adding to this, admittedly, I got to this late when everybody had already made a selection, so I was kind of grasping at straws a little bit, but I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt's receiving yards just because I think it's low. I think he's going to be on the field for at least half of the Chiefs' snaps, so that's like 30 to 35 times he'll be on the field. I think he's going to be utilized. Also, I just think the matchup might have him get a couple looks if the Chiefs are potentially playing from behind as well.
Dave, anything to put in the group parlays?
So this is about any pick that I like to put in the group, or is there a pick that's already there? Just going over my picks. One I didn't give yet on this stream that I gave on Friday was Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions. And at last look, it was plus 130. So that's beautiful for parlay action. It'll really boost those odds. But I do think that he's going to be right back involved in this offense, just as he's been much of his time with Patrick Mahomes and certainly a couple of games ago. Just the way that the Eagles defense has been playing, the weakness at the linebacker position, it points to him having a good game. And I would put a little sprinkle action on Noah Gray's over 1.5 receptions as well. Could see him having 2 grabs in this game.
I think we talked about Samaje Perine earlier, but RJ, Mark Sinclair wants to know Samaje Perine over 6.5 receiving yards. I don't think you were the person that actually discussed this. Proppy, I know how you feel about running back receiving yards. So I would imagine you would say, I'll probably lay off this one. But let me start with you, RJ. Any thoughts on Samaje Perine? Basically, to me, this is like, if he catches a ball, he probably eclipses this, although with 6.5, maybe not. What do you think?
I mean, I think if I'm going to play it, I'm probably going to parlay it with like the Eagles getting ahead early, because you want to hit that, comeback type of mentality for him, jumping off, trying to rally back in the fourth quarter, because I think that's where you're going to catch that. So I think you want to play some Eagles take an early lead type of things, maybe Eagles in the first half type of things, and parlay it with that. Then I like it even more.
Throw some Saquon props in there.
I would implore you all, I guess it's kind of late right now, but Uncle Dave and I and EC spent 10 to 12 minutes talking about Samaje Perine's reception prop. So I would encourage you all to go listen to the Friday prop show if you're looking for an in-depth analysis on that. But it is EC's favorite play. He made it a 2-unit play.
Whoa.
Samaje Perine.
What? He can't even finish the sentence. That's amazing. I mean, listen, I actually lean to the over. You know what's interesting, Mike? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to think of like the last 2 Super Bowls. Jerick McKinnon's been on this team. The one they won, what was it, 4 years ago? Was Jerick? He had to have been on the team then too, right? Whether you know the answer to that question or not, like, it does feel like this would be a game where they would go to Samaje Perine a little bit more because he's a trusted piece of this Kansas City offense. Your thoughts on just his involvement in general?
I think his involvement's mostly only going to exist in a hurry-up situation. It's going to be maybe, and if you're really lucky, end of half. But when I say hurry up, I don't mean 2-minute drill. I mean like 45 seconds left kind of drill. And then if they're obviously behind, 10 plus points fourth quarter, then I think that he's going to be on the field a lot. Other than that, I would not count on it just because I think Kareem Hunt is clearly RB1 here, and he's going to be on the football field. He's the guy that they trust the most.
21 snaps. That's how many snaps Samaje Perine has played in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think you're more likely to get a big kickoff return from him than anything. I think that's something that could happen. But yeah, it's fun, and we all remember big plays like to ice a game or something like that. But as Alex is alluding to here, the opportunity is still very, very low for Perine.
Carson Steele also gets on the field as well.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I just can't imagine in the Super Bowl Carson Steele.
Yeah, someone's going to have to get hurt for that to happen.
Yeah. Cole, or maybe Kale Davenport, who must eat healthy, even though it's spelled differently. Kale Davenport says Devontae Smith over 50.5 receiving yards. He always plays well against the Chiefs. Dave, real quick on Devontae Smith. We talked about it earlier in the show. The volume isn't necessarily really there for him. I wonder how much he's going to be targeted. I would prefer a longest reception prop than the 50.5, but go ahead.
And certainly the case could be made that Devontae Smith could have a big catch and run, or even just a deep catch when the Chiefs decide to play man coverage. And in those situations, I would expect him to maybe get an extra bit of time from Jalen Hurts downfield. I'm not comfortable taking the over on the yardage, strictly the receptions when it comes to Devontae Smith, because he does have that potential to catch one pass and make it 40 yards plus.
Because he has that potential, I love him as a first touchdown scorer at plus 1,700. If I look across the board, I think that has the best value, considering he's going to be on the field for every Jalen Hurts drop back. They might look to him while the plays are still scripted because he hasn't had a lot of involvement, and he's going to be running routes deep down the field. So I think he makes a great value at those odds for first touchdown.
I guess just for full disclosure, we should mention he was on the injury report this week with a hamstring. I think it was a hamstring, but a lower body injury for sure. And that could be something that does limit him in the game. We just don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's been lingering with him for some time now. I mean, I can't imagine but yeah, I mean, it's a soft tissue injury. You always want to worry about that when you're taking anybody's overs, whether it's been a lingering issue or not. All right, well, that was a professional transition. Proppy, your first touchdown score is, of course, Devontae Smith. And guess what? Mike McClure's first touchdown score is
DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if we've talked about him yet today, guys. Look, I think DeAndre Hopkins lands in the end zone here. I like the opportunity. It's great that he gets to finally play in a Super Bowl. Kansas City, to me, is the organization that will still try to script things. And the good news about this, although his role has diminished between the 20s, he's still going to likely be on the field if we do have true red zone snaps. So I like it. I think that, again, Dave talked about the pressure. I think the pressure is going to be there, and I think they're going to look for some timing routes, and that's where I think Hopkins excels. So plus 3,300, DeAndre Hopkins.
All right, DeAndre Hopkins plus 3,300. And Dave, we got yours, right? Did you tell us yours? Oh no, I don't. Think
I gave you anytime touchdowns. I'm kind of scanning through the first touchdowns now, looking for a potential good value.
RJ, while he's doing that,
I really like any of these.
I mean, listen, it's more of a fun sprinkle market. We're not like holding your feet
I get it,
to the fire still on this one. Go ahead, Proppy.
I would encourage all of you to go watch a DeAndre Hopkins. I was talking in the chat. Anyone to watch a DeAndre Hopkins highlight reel, because when this guy was in his prime as a member of the Texans, for example, he truly was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and had some of the most spectacular catches and highlight reels that you will see from a wide receiver. Never one on speed, one on just incredible control, hands. Just very, very technical wide receiver.
I fear that in 15 years, everybody will have forgotten DeAndre Hopkins for whatever reason. He's just that receiver type that isn't quite flashy enough to
like Andre Johnson.
Yeah, I was just going to say Andre Johnson. That's so interesting. Same thing. Andre Johnson was a complete beast. Nobody thinks about that guy for some reason. David Johnson, running back for Arizona, another guy that was a great running back, at least for a few years, and nobody remembers that guy at all. We're getting up to the coin toss here. Is anybody here degenerate enough to actually put money on heads or tails? RJ, I can't imagine that's a bet you'd ever make.
Nope. If you're gonna play it, make sure plus 100. Obviously, play it with a friend, not the book, because the book will probably charge you minus 104, minus 105. But no edge to be had in a coin toss, so no reason for me to play it.
Okay, but you still have to make a call. I'm going to make you. Heads or tails?
I think I had tails on the Tuesday show, so I'll stick with that for absolutely no reason.
Mike, heads or tails?
Tails. Never fails, baby.
Obviously. Propstarz, heads or tails?
Whew, I flipped the coin 100 times before I came on here. It landed on heads 52. So let's go heads.
Dave?
So I actually went to the mint where the coin was made, and I weighed each side of the coin and put it through some AI models to get an idea. And there is a 50.0001% chance that it goes heads. Put me on heads.
Let's go.
Wow, a battery of tests for the coin. Dave confirms that it weighs more on the head side. Let's see if we have any other questions. I mean, we are getting up to kickoff. I know people are trying to put their bets in. I'll tell you what. Maybe we should just sort of close the show in this fashion where let's go around, and I'm going to start with RJ. RJ, talk to me about something you're going to look for in this game with maybe live betting in mind, because obviously I do think this game has some live betting opportunities. Like, what is there anything in particular, whether it's props or the game, the score, the total, that you're going to look for? And if it happens, you're going to say to yourself, oh, I might want to take a live look here.
Yeah, I took +2 on the Eagles at the very beginning of last week, knowing that was going to be the best number. And the thought part 2 of that is to live bet the Chiefs, especially if they go down, because we know what Patrick Mahomes can do when he's behind. So wanted to have the Eagles +2 pregame, have that. Going to be looking for the best value I can get on Chiefs, especially if they are handling that defense well enough to where I think they're going to score more than 24 points, which was not one of my predictions. I thought they were going to go under 24.5. So if it seems like they're headed to that, I want to get on them live.
Mike, talk to me about a potential live betting opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's going to be several, but for me, I'm really wanting to focus on Travis Kelce and Saquon Barkley in 2 different ways. Saquon Barkley, I want to focus on his receiving yardage. You can find that around 12.5 right now, which I think is a fine look. I want to be looking at that pretty heavily if we get ourselves into a very competitive game after halftime. I think that's where we could see them just try to find ways to put the football in Saquon's hands. We know what he's capable of anytime he touches it. So I'm going to be looking at live overs on Saquon in that receiving market, particularly if he doesn't have a catch and we get that number down to 8 yards, 7.5 yards. That's where I become interested. And then Travis Kelce, same thing. If Travis Kelce doesn't have a good first half and we're starting to catch numbers in like 38 yards, 37 yards live, I would essentially play that all the way up until the start of the fourth quarter. Because if they are behind, I do expect him to have a drive where he has 40 plus yards on a single drive if they are behind. So I think that he's one that you can wait and really look to buy that live number on his receiving yardage.
All right, Propstarz, any live betting looks, something you might look for?
Listen, even though I do hope the Eagles win, and I think they are a slight favorite as far as I'm concerned, they don't particularly play well from behind. They're not really built to play well from behind, and Jalen Hurts struggles in these situations when he's facing a 10-point deficit. He plays well with a lead as well as any team in football when Saquon gets rolling and the offensive line is getting downhill. But, yeah, if the Chiefs jump out to a lead on the Eagles, I do have some concerns. So that may be a spot where I look to actually back Kansas City, just because I don't see him able to play catch up consistently, especially Mahomes operating on the other side of things. So I do think the Eagles need to get off to a good start if they're going to win the game. If I'm Kansas City and I win the coin toss, typically they defer. I would actually receive and look to get Jalen Hurts playing from behind. That's when he's really been shaky. So those are my live thoughts.
That's very interesting. Uncle Dave, before you go, Sets for Life says, hey, Mike McClure, please tweet out any live looks. But I will say, whether Mike is able to do that or not, RJ, I know you and many others are in the SportsLine Discord all the time. And I'm not saying you're going to be in there the whole game or anything. I'll try to duck in there myself. But the SportsLine Discord, regardless of the sport, whether you're talking golf or NFL, NBA, MLB, we talk about live plays there. So make sure, I know some of you are leaving the stream because you're setting up for the Super Bowl, totally understandable. And hopefully you're all in the SportsLine Discord. Hopefully you're all members of SportsLine. Hopefully you're you should be subscribed to this channel. If you are, you can certainly comment in here, but you definitely want to be subscribed to this channel. Dave, any live looks you're kind of maybe potentially focusing on depending on how the beginning of the game goes?
So a couple of very quick thoughts. Number one, I think all the sharp odds makers are going to be focused on this game, obviously. So I don't think they're going to be relying on algorithms to produce live lines. It means that they're going to be very sharp live lines. So I would be careful with any and all of them. And number two, this is converse to what Proppy was just talking about with Philadelphia falling behind. I kind of like Kansas City if they fall behind. That's a team that knows how to play and put points on the board when things aren't going that way. We just haven't seen a lot of that from them this year. And so if there's a betting opportunity to get Kansas City with points in the second half, I think I'm going to take that. I think that's something that I would be looking for, but I'm going to wait and see how the first half falls out before I really make a decision on anything like that.
All right. That ought to do it, folks. Proppy, you have something else?
Go Birds, baby.
Mike, your retort.
I'll just watch the game. I'm enjoying it. I have to say, computer does have a slight lean towards Philly with the points. Obviously, I'm still taking the showdown. My biggest play on the game is Eagles plus 11.5, Chiefs plus 11.5, and over 36.5. We cashed that in a 20-17 game. But that is my biggest position on the game is 11.5 on both sides, over 36.5. Played that at -160.
Love that.
That's a fun one. Did you say -160 or plus 160? -160. Okay. Great show, guys, says Mark Sinclair, 2601. Many thanks. All right. Well, many thanks to you for tuning in. Again, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Enjoy the game. Hopefully most of your bets cash. All your bets are not going to cash. Hopefully most of your bets cash. On behalf of this crew right here, which of course is RJ, Mike, Uncle Dave, Proppy. Don't forget about everybody that was on the show previously. A big thanks to them as well. And let's have a great final game of the Super Bowl. And let's give a shout out to Ben, of course, who is running this whole show, which is honestly with 2 hosts and so many guests coming in and out. Really good stuff coming from Ben as usual. All right, we got to get to the coin toss. We got to get to the anthem. We got to get to the game. See you later, folks. This is the Early Edge. We rest our case.